Welcome, mates. Today I'm featuring two slimline cards that I made with the My Monthly Hero Arts kit for April 2020. This month's Hero Arts kit has the flair of the Australian Outback and has a ton of stamps and dies with cool animals, sea life, greenery, a likeness of the infamous Ayers Rock, and lots of Aussie sentiments. It also has a full-sized Hero Arts Intense black ink pad, a beautiful background stencil, and some cherry and birchwood cardstock. Let's get started creating. On the first card, I used 80-pound Nina white cardstock. And this features a beautiful background stencil from the kit. Using fossilized amber distress oxide ink for the sky portion of the stencil, I went ahead and used a blending brush to apply that. Now I'm staggering the stamping in a triangular pattern using the kangaroo paw plant with a brown dye ink from scrapbook.com. I'm stamping the plant all over the bottom and alternating as I go. So I didn't plan this, but I didn't like the way the inside, or I should say the middle portion of the stencil, the transition from the sky to the ground. I didn't like how that looked, so I decided I would try and mask that with the Ayers rock. So I stamped it there directly on the panel, but it turns out it did not stamp very well. So I decided I would stamp it again on a scrap piece of paper, die cut it, and then add it to the panel. So that's what I'm doing here, stamping it about 3 times just to get a good crisp image, and then I will die cut it and add it to the panel using some craft tacky glue. Now that I have that affixed to the panel, I'm going to trim off the end of the rock. I trimmed off the left end before I applied the glue. Off camera, I heat embossed my sentiment on black cardstock using Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment ink. Have an awesome day. I did, prior to heat embossing, I used my anti-static powder bag. And so now I'm going to go ahead and glue that sentiment strip directly to the panel. After I get this centered the way I want it, which is actually a little left of center, then I'll press it down so that it adheres, and then I will take my scissors and trim off each end. So I'm lining it up here with the craft mat to make sure I get it lined up properly. Then I decide I want to apply a little more color to the sky portion just to tone down those white areas. So that's what I'm doing here. So here I am figuring out the placement for my kangaroos on the panel. And once I figure that out, I'm going to add craft tacky glue and place each kangaroo on the panel. There's Papa Kangaroo, Mama Kangaroo, who's looking back to make sure baby Joey isn't straying too far behind. Gonna glue them all on the panel. And once I have those affixed, I'm gonna place an acrylic block on top of the roos to let them dry a bit and set that aside and create my base, card base. And that's going to end up being 7.5 by 8.5 and fold it. And so here's a look at the finished card, number 1. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to move right on to card number 2. And card number 2 features the beautiful Hero Arts tropical foliage bold prints background stamp. Here on light green colored cardstock, I've stamped the foliage background using Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide ink. Here I have cut a dark green colored cardstock, 3 3/4 by 3.5, and then I'm going to stamp the background leaves, foliage leaves, using Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment ink on that. Then you'll see I cut a 1-inch cherry wood strip and affix that on top of the both panels to create a seamless transition. But in retrospect, before applying the dark green bottom panel and the cherry wood, I should have actually should have stamped my background stamp on the dark green panel first, trimmed it down, and then placed it on the panel. And I should have stamped my sentiment on the cherry wood strip before gluing it to the panel. Well, hindsight is 2020, and I missed that opportunity, but I don't want you to miss it. So go ahead and do all of your stamping and cutting before affixing, with glue. So here I'm going to trim down the cherry wood panel, the ends of the cherry wood panel, and then it hits me that, oops, I forgot to stamp my sentiments. Now I've placed my panel inside my MISTI and am going to use the ink from the kit to stamp the sentiment, I'll see you soon. And I stamp that about 3 times in the center there. I've die cut 2 koalas from the black cardstock and affixed them on either side of the sentiment strip using craft tacky glue. After affixing both of those koalas with craft tacky glue, I'm placing an acrylic block on top of them. I add the card panel to a 7.5 by 8.5 side fold card base. And here's a look at the finished card. And now let's take a look at both finished cards, card number 1 and card number 2. That's it for today, friends. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll be back soon with more cards from this awesome Aussie kit. Until next time, good day, mates.